Hello everyone, welcome to the Whistling Hermit's One Card Spread series. Note that this video is divided into three parts. A short introduction, which we are doing right now. Part 1, which is a descriptive study of the card for the day. And Part 2, which is a reading from the Handbook of the Tarot of A.E. Waite from AGM Urania. If you want to navigate directly to any of the three parts mentioned, just click on their respective links at the timestamp provided in the description of this video. This video series is primarily intended for learning how to read the tarot. However, you can also use this as a card reading for the day. This is a timeless reading, so if you are watching this now, its message might be for you. In this series, we will be using the Giant Rider Waite Tarot deck. We will also be using the Handbook of the Tarot of A.E. Waite from AGM Urania. The first part of the video will be a descriptive study of a specific card in the tarot. We will describe what we see and the insights and feelings we gather from what we see. Now, the first part is characterized by spontaneity. We allow the cards to speak to us regardless of the generally accepted meaning of the card. By doing this, we hope to increase our intuitive capacity for reading the tarot cards. In the second part, we will be reading the description of the card taken from the booklet of the Tarot of A.E. Waite by AGM Urania. If you intend to use this as a timeless reading, you can randomly choose any card in the series that resonates with you. An alternative approach is to shuffle a Rider Waite Tarot deck and pick a card randomly. You can then choose the card in the video series that corresponds to the card you picked. Note that this series is a work in progress and it might take some time for the 78 cards to be completely read. So, without any further delay, let us proceed to the card for the day. Welcome to part 1 of our one card spread series, and our card for today is the Major Arcana card number 13, which is Death. We see here a dead person lying on the ground out in the field, and there's a crown beside him. So we can presume that this dead person is a king. Dying in the field could mean that this person died while doing his work, which is quite noble, no? To die performing your duties, no? Or your responsibilities is quite a good thing. We see here two children, or maybe a woman, a young girl, or maybe it could be the princess or the queen, or it can be also part of his subjects, no? This can be a prince, or this young child could be a princess or a prince, or can be also just part of his subjects in his kingdom. And this child has a flower in his or her hand. It can be a flower in homage of the king, or a flower, some people say that it's a flower that is being offered to death. They say that the child looks at death in a positive sense, no? When we look at just a little distance from the king, there is a river and there's a boat. It reminds me of death, no? Transporting the people from the land of the living to the underworld. Now there's a bishop here who seems to be praying and blessing the king. It's as if he's preparing him for the journey to the next life. In the distance, we see the sun shining. The sun can symbolize also the infinite. It's as if the infinite awaits the soul of the person here. The infinite can also symbolize us a king. It's like a king receiving another king. And when you look at the death is symbolized here as a knight in service of the king, a knight who is in service of the divine. And usually knights are well known for delivering people from misery, a savior, saving us from misery. In a certain sense, it looks like as if death has this special nightly mission of delivering us from misery. When we die, we no longer suffer, and we look forward to a better life in the afterlife, in the next world, in the next life, in the new chapter. They say that this card does not only symbolize physical death, it can symbolize other forms of death, death from a certain situation that might not be as good as we would want it to be. But from the way that the death is symbolized here as a knight, it seems like from whatever it is that we are dying right now at this stage in our life, it seems like there's a closing. When we see this card, it somehow symbolizes that something is closing, that there is an end into something. And oftentimes this thing that we are ending is something that is has maybe given us misery or some pain. And somehow the knight delivers us from that source of pain and is bringing us into something much better. So if it could be a situation in our life, that a situation in our life that might not be pleasing is already closing, and something shining is waiting for us, something beautiful, a bright tomorrow awaits us. It could be a death of relationship, a death of a situation, a closing of a career, or whatever. It's a transition. It's a moment of transition. The sky is gray, so there is a certain sorrow in it. I guess when something closes, we cannot help but also have that sorrow. But then there is that yellow sun, that bright sun in the distance, that accompanying sorrow is hope. There is hope for a brighter tomorrow. That if something is closing now, there is always hope for a brighter tomorrow. And this is a ceremonial, the way that the horse moves is like he moves in a ceremonial way, a very dignified way. It's as if the moment of transition is something that is sacred. A moment of transition in a person's life is something that is sacred, something that we should honor, something that we should look with respect and look with appreciation, and that we are hoping that somehow the death that has arrived will bring us to transformation into something better, or will bring us into a new chapter that is more promising than the one that is closing. Well, that is what I could see from this card right now. I know that this is also another card where you can find rich reflections from when you spend your time alone as you study and get to know the card more personally. Well, that's it for now. Let us go to chapter 2 or part 2 of the one card spread series on the Major Arcana number 13, which is Death. Welcome to part 2 of our one card spread series on the Major Arcana card number 13, which is Death. Let us now read from the booklet of the Tarot of A.E. Waite from AGM Urania. Just by the name, this is one of the deck's most fearsome cards. If we look at the Tarot as a book of prophecy or a guide in times of upheaval, it's tempting to see card 13, unnamed in earlier decks, as a prediction of physical death, either personally or on a large scale. In modern tarot, however, we see this card more as dramatic change. Something dies, but not necessarily the body. A pattern, a way of life, a bad marriage, or a dead-end job. The figures around death symbolize the ways we face such shifts. Look at the white-haired king and the child. The dead king represents the ego that clings to what it knows and cannot let go. The child, on the other hand, shows openness to whatever will happen. He welcomes the rider on the black horse with flowers. Divinatory meanings. Usually not a card of physical death, but rather of dramatic change. The end of something. Acceptance leads to new life. Warning, advice. Resisting change, clinging to old ways, something we thought over shows new life. Action. A moment to release whatever you cling to. Be like a child as things change around you. Well, this ends part 2 of our one-card spread series on the Major Arcana card, Death. I hope that it has been fruitful for those who have watched the video. Until next time, have a great day.